Hello everyone, my name's Michelle Flynn and I'm a certified health coach and a CBT practitioner. It is my job to ultimately prevent people getting sick in the first place. It's about learning how to live again and bringing balance to our lives so that we can live long, healthy, happy lives. I will be answering your questions at the end, so please submit them as we go throughout the talk and I look forward to answering them in the Q&A. But let's get started. Let's talk about where we're at the moment, and let's talk about, yes, COVID-19. We are already having to live very differently, and this is something that is going to carry on for the next few weeks and months. So what I want to do firstly when I start my talks is it's really important for me that we talk about some science. I want us to understand how the body works and why we feel how we feel in times of uncertainty. So let's talk about change. Change creates fear and uncertainty. That's completely natural, and we are in a state of complete change at the moment. And with fear is a primary emotion. It's often something that you can really recognize on your face. Think about those scary movies. And it's a healthy response. Fear helps us survive. What we do is it basically teaches us how to avoid danger in the future. So let's take when we're crossing the road. We're going to cross the road, and often what happens, we might be crossing it with our phone in our hand, and then a car beeps its horn at us and we realise, hang on a minute, actually, I need to take a little bit of care. So we learn from that, and then the next time we go to cross the road, we use the zebra crossing. So I thought I would show you the world's most famous zebra crossing by Abbey Road, and the fact that somebody's actually done a socially distanced version of it. So when we think about it, we're planning our lives, we are constantly processing information, we make thousands of decisions every day. And what we do is we plan for our future by looking at what's gone on in the past, and we simulate all these different scenarios and we pick the one that is safest for us. But our challenge at the moment is none of us have ever lived through a pandemic before. None of us have experienced it unless you were alive in 1918, which was when the last global pandemic happened. That was Spanish flu. So because of that, we've got all of this uncertainty about COVID-19. We don't know how to deal with it. We can't simulate the future scenario because we don't know the answer to the vaccine, how long it will take for us all to be vaccinated, what the outcome of that will be. And what we get is when we take that fear and we add uncertainty, that's where we get anxiety. So now with anxiety is a secondary emotion. It's often an invisible emotion. And that can be invisible to ourselves or invisible to other people that we're feeling it. So let me share a little example with you. It's my wedding day. Any excuse to share a wedding photo. But the point is, on my face, you see joy and happiness, and absolutely, I was walking down the aisle to the man that I loved. But of course, on a wedding day, there's going to be anxiety. There's the fear. What if this isn't the right thing? There's the uncertainty. What if it doesn't last forever? And those are absolutely natural emotions to be going through when you're about to get married. And the point being is that on my face, you don't see that because it's that hidden emotion. My dad, on the other hand, bless him, not quite so good at hiding his emotions. So when it comes to anxiety, it's an emotion that we get these feelings of tension. You know, those tight feelings in your chest? You get those worried thoughts, and those worried thoughts are always what if, and generally negative. What if this goes on longer? What if the vaccine doesn't work? We get the physical changes, those jelly legs, the sweaty palms, the heart racing. They're all feelings that we get when we're in a state of anxiety, and they're all completely natural. So if you're sat there and you're kind of nodding to yourself because you recognize that, you are not alone. It's not new. Most of us, I'd probably say now all of us, have experienced this at some point in our lives. However, at the moment, we have just turned the volume up to maximum level because we are in a situation that we are not used to. Not only are we not used to what's going on with the pandemic, but we've also got something that they didn't have in 1918, which is social media. Social media is coughing and sneezing all over us with information every day. And whether that is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whether that's the news, we can't get away from it, even if we try. We see pictures with empty shelves and we start to panic about the fact, well, what if I can't get any food? Or even worse, what if I can't get any toilet roll? And then this happens. People start bulk buying toilet roll because they're sort of seeing the pictures on social media and hearing the information that we're not going to be able to get any toilet roll. And at that point, we're actually creating a panic pandemic. It's not even any longer about the virus. It's about the bigger and the wider worries that we start to overthink, those what ifs. And what's going on there? And here we go. Here's the science bit about our brain. There's a part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. It's at the front of your brain. It's very small, but it's the region of your brain where we make rational decisions. It's our logic. And when we are panicked, that goes offline. Our emotional brain takes over. We literally lose our mind. And anyone that's interested in finding out more about this, there's a book called The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. And this book explains really clearly and really simply what's going on in our brain when our chimp takes over. So picture this, we've got our human brain. This is our logic. And then when that switches off, when we're in a state of panic, over here our emotional brain, or as he calls it, our chimp, takes over. Our chimp is 4 times more powerful than the human brain. And when that chimp has taken over, we start to make maybe not the best decisions. Maybe we're not doing that exercise that we know we should be doing, or maybe we're staying up a bit later and watching that extra episode of that box set. Maybe it's a case that we're drinking an occasional extra glass of wine than we should. Maybe we get to the point that we're sat at our desks and we're finding that we just can't do the things that we would so naturally do. And that's because that logic part of our brain has gone off. So those tasks that should be second nature because you do them all day, every day, suddenly you can't do them. You can't bring focus. And that's because the fact that that part of your brain has switched off. So what I'm going to do today is really focus with you on how we get that part switched back on. But just let's talk a little bit about how we're feeling before we move to the practical part. Got a little chart here for you explaining what's going on in our emotions. And the bottom left of the chart, the calm area, that's otherwise known as before COVID. And then what happens is we start to hear about what's going on in China. And the stress levels start to go up a little bit, but it still feels quite far away. And then suddenly we start to hear the fact that COVID is here. It's actually on our doorsteps. And then came that date in the middle of March where we are all told you are going into lockdown. And there we go. That is the first peak. That is the first panic attack level. Suddenly we're like, what do you mean? How am I going to work at home? How am I going to have strong enough internet to be able to use Zoom? How do I use Zoom? I've never used it before. How am I going to see my friends and my family? How am I going to cope with living with my family 24/7? And suddenly we're just in this absolute state of panic. And then what happens, because our brains are really clever, is that we get used to it. And suddenly we start to calm down a little bit. We realise that if the internet isn't working well enough, we can get technology to boost that. We realise that there are lots of different platforms that we can use to help us work from home. We realise that we will be able to get the things that we need to get. Yes, even that toilet roll. So we calm down a little bit. And then what happened is we go back into lockdown. So now we had a little mini one at lockdown 2, but I'm going to refer to lockdown 3 where we're at the moment because we've gone back up into that panic. It's a quick, we're asking ourselves, how are we going to get through this? How long is it going to go on for? All of these different questions and the homeschooling that people are having to deal with. And we're struggling. And it's one of the things that I am spending a lot of my time supporting people through is how to actually cope with lockdown, with being away from the people that you love or being with them more than you would choose to. How we're coping with the fact of homeschooling, how we're coping with the vaccine and waiting for our turn to get it. So trying to reduce that anxiety for people. So I'm referring to this as the second wave of well-being. And this is what I'm going to share with you. We've talked about the science now. You understand about anxiety. You understand that it is natural and your body reacts to it. And that is all absolutely normal and you are not alone. We are all feeling it. But let's get practical. Let's look at some of the things that we can do now to help ourselves reduce that anxiety. So, tip number 1, use your voice. Now, what I mean by that is technology is amazing, and whether it is Zooms, whether it's Teams, whether it's Google Meet, whichever technology you're using, it's wonderful. And without it, working at home and homeschooling would be a very challenging situation. However, we get Zoom fatigue. We are exhausted from staring at the screens all day, every day. Our eyes are tired because we're not used to staring at the screens. If we were all in the same room together now, I'd be looking around, I'd be getting eye contact with everybody. I'd be moving about, so my body would be moving, my blood would be flowing. But also what happens is that when you are staring at a screen, the way that you breathe changes. There is a thing called sleep apnea, which affects how we sleep. There's also a thing called email apnea, which is that we stop breathing properly when we are staring at the screen. If you picture your rib cage, you're going to have to use your best case of visualization here, but imagine my fingers are a rib cage. They should be open. Your ribs should be expanded so that your lungs have got space to move. Your lungs have got space to get filled with oxygen, to send that oxygen to your brain so that you've got clarity of thought, to send it through all of your organs and all of your muscles so that you've got energy. When we are sat staring at a screen all day, our rib cage goes like that. It compresses. Our lungs don't have the space that they need to breathe as fully as they would. So we get more and more tired. So my tip number 1 is absolutely use the screen for when you need it. But where possible, pick up the phone and use your voice. So whether that's you're having a one-to-one with a member of your team, whether that's you're having a conversation with a member of your family, you don't always need to see them. I do all of my one-to-one coaching on the phone. I say to people, I want you to put your hands-free headset in and I want you to go for a walk. I want you to get some fresh air. I want you to be able to feel relaxed whilst we have a conversation. Because anything that can get us away from that screen is going to help us have more energy. It's going to help us relax, have better clarity of thought, and fundamentally be better at whatever it is that we need to achieve during the day. So, tip number 1 was use your voice. Tip number 2. Now, this one's got 2 parts to it because this depends on your living situation. So, tip number 2 is find solitude or connection. So for those of you who are living with other people, whether that is your family, whether that is flatmates, we didn't sign up to this 24/7. I love my husband, but this was not what I had planned, to be in the same building as him all of the time. So for me, it's really important to find some time to myself. So I have a rule that when I'm drinking out of a certain mug, that is a sign that he should not come and talk to me. Or if I say, I actually want to go for a run on my own, that's not an insult to him. That's just me saying, I need a little bit of time to myself. Those of you who've got kids, maybe it's about locking the bathroom door. And I know that might seem like a crazy idea because that never happens when you've got kids. But just that sign to say, I just need a little bit of space. But this also then works in the reverse for people who are living on their own. But also for people who are just generally missing their family and their friends that they can't be seeing all of the time, is we need to find connection. We are tribal beings. We are meant to be around people. We're meant to be in a tribe supporting each other. It's not natural for us to be on our own. And I think the biggest thing to have come out of COVID and lockdown is that sort of realization that people are the most important thing. So find ways to connect. Whether that's doing virtual cooking classes together, whether that is, yes, another pub quiz, although we're probably a bit over those now. Whether that is connecting with your local community, becoming a volunteer in your street for anyone who might need some support. Whether that is with your workmates, just sort of finding time throughout the day to connect with each other, and not about work, but about those things that you would talk about over kind of the water machine. Speaking of water, if you've got a glass, pick it up and have a little drink with me. We need to keep hydrated. So, tip number 2 is find some time to yourself, but also find time to connect with others. Tip number 3, discover variety. Now, I'm asking you a question, and I would imagine if we were all in the same room together, you will all put your hands up, but who is bored? And I hope you're not bored of my talk, but I mean bored of Groundhog Day. Waking up not being sure what day it is because it's the same as yesterday. Variety is the spice of life. We are used to having a lot of variety, from the people in our lives to the food that we eat to the holidays that we can go on, and suddenly that's removed. So find a way to bring in some variety. Whether that is trying a recipe that you've never cooked before, whether that's walking a different route, whether that's trying couch to 5K if you've never done running. And I'm not suggesting that you come out of lockdown sort of fully fluent in Mandarin and playing the violin. Goodness no. If we just come out of this, sort of getting out of it is all we need to focus on. It's not about learning loads of new skills, but it is about some variety. And if you're kind of asking, well, what can I do different? One tip I always say to my clients is, what did you used to do when you were a kid for fun? Maybe it was it wouldn't have been adult at the time, but maybe it was colouring in. Now adult colouring in has become really popular. Maybe it was a train set, maybe it was a jigsaw puzzle, maybe it was your scooter or your skateboard. If you're sitting there and you're like, I can't think about a way to bring some variety, look back to your childhood and do something from that used to give you a lot of fun and a lot of joy. Because we all need some fun at the moment. We need to produce those happy hormones. So tip number 4, I just talked there about sort of skateboarding and scootering. Tip number 4 is about exercise. And when it comes to exercise, we all know that it is important for our physical well-being. But I'm not actually referring to it about that. I'm referring to it as in it's about our mental fitness. When we exercise, we get the blood pumping. When the blood pumps, it goes to our brain. 50% of the oxygen that we breathe goes to our brain. So it's really important that blood is pumping and taking the oxygen. So it's not just about getting in great shape, although yes, absolutely, that is important. But it's about the mental fitness. We all know that if we do some exercise, we feel better afterwards. And I'm not talking about running ultra marathons or doing CrossFit. I'm talking about keeping it simple. Going for a walk every day. Yes, if you can take that to running, brilliant. But if you can't, walking's absolutely great. Maybe it's a little bit of yoga. Maybe it's just doing some squats whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil or running around after the kids. Just get your body moving because you need to get that blood pumping. It's going to help with the anxiety. It's going to help you find some calm. And who knows, you might actually find a new hobby there. Next one. Tip number 5, this is an interesting one because I'm talking about finding calm and yet I'm talking about commuting. How many people are actually missing the commute? That chance to get out of your house and to have a little bit of space, or maybe not if you're on a crowded train, but a bit of headspace. Maybe you have a nap on the train, maybe you're listening to a podcast, reading a book, reading the paper, whatever it might be. But at the moment, we are no longer working from home. We are living from work. And what I suggest is you reintroduce your commute. Now, I'm not suggesting that you turn up to your office if your office isn't open or wherever your place of work is. I'm talking about just leaving your house. So let's say your commute would normally take half an hour. Use half an hour in the morning to start your day off right. Go outside, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D. There's also a hormone process that starts when your eyes get to see daylight. It basically tells your body that it is no longer time for sleep, so your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, switches off, and it starts your serotonin process, which is your day hormone. So it is fundamental that we get to see daylight first thing in the morning. So if you can introduce that half-hour commute. I've got friends of mine who are using that time to get their kids out of the house. When it's been bad weather, put the wellies on, go and jump in some puddles, have some fun. But it's as important for kids as it is for adults. And again, do it at the end of your day. It's too easy for us just to keep working. And we just find that sort of we've moved from our workspace to our sofa, to our bed, and that's been it. And we might have done about 50 steps over the day if we're lucky. So at the end of the day, whatever time your workday finishes, say, right, I'm going to do my little commute, thank you very much. I'm going to go out, and I know it's cold, so wrap up warm. but you're going to separate that working day. And if you're sitting here and you run a team, maybe you could actually introduce those times into people's diaries so that maybe they arrive a little bit late at their desk. But that's okay, because they're going to arrive feeling so much better and so much more ready for the day because they've just started the day off well. So yes, I am saying, let's bring back the commute. Tip number 6, take a break. Wouldn't that be lovely? And yes, I wish the sun was shining like it is in this photograph and I could put a tent out in my garden. And we can't take holidays at the moment. And oh my goodness, I have a very long list of where I want to go when we are allowed to do that. But we can't wait till then. If we wait till then, we are all going to be burnt out and we need to take breaks. Whether that is just taking a day off work, which some people think, why would I do that? I can't go anywhere. Just take a staycation. Do nothing all day. Maybe just use the day to catch up with yourself. Maybe use the day to meet a friend for a socially distanced walk. Then you're bringing in that connection and the exercise. But it's really important that we take breaks. Throughout our day, it's important that we take the breaks and we don't just sit and eat lunch at our desks. I use the analogy of footballers. If you've got a footballer playing match number 1 and they play brilliantly, but now we put a second match back to back, they're going to be a bit tired. By the time we put a third match on to the end of that, if there was no breaks, that footballer is not going to be performing at their best. That is exactly the same for us. We cannot sit at our desks all day, not move, not take any breaks, shovel our lunch down and expect to be feeling our greatest. We're going to feel overwhelmed. We're going to feel anxious. Remember, that part of our brain that makes decisions isn't going to be operating. So we need to take some breaks. Tip number 7 is be positive. It's a tough one because how do we be positive at a time like we are in at the moment? But it is really important to find some positive in every day. And why is this important? It comes down to this. This is the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy, that how we think determines how we feel, affects how we act. So if you are thinking negative thoughts, if you are thinking, I'm going to have a bad day today, what is going to happen is you are going to feel tired, uninspired, demotivated. And then how are you going to act? You're either not going to go to work, or if you do go to work, you're not going to be doing the best that you can do. So you need to tell yourself that you're going to have a good day. And even if you don't know how, just say, I'm going to have a good day somehow. Because what that does is there's a part of your brain that will hold on to that and it will spend the day hunting out ways for you to have a good day. Now, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I don't believe that's true, think about this. Maybe you wanted to buy a red car in the past, or a certain pair of running shoes, or have a certain haircut. And because you're thinking about it, what happens? Everywhere you look, red cars, that certain haircut, the running shoes, because your brain has taken hold of that thought and has spent the day hunting it down. So if you tell yourself you're going to have a good day somehow, you are starting that positive cycle. You are going to feel much more empowered, much more energetic. And then you're just going to go, I can do this. Whatever it is that you need to achieve in that day, take hold of it and own it and go, absolutely, I can do this. And believe in it. The whole cycle of success starts with belief. Forget performance and actions and results. If you don't believe in something, you are just going to be making an uphill struggle. So let's talk a little bit about mindset shift during a pandemic. Let's make it relevant to some of the things that we might be worrying about, because mindset is fundamentally just a story that you tell yourself. You could be telling yourself, I'm stuck at home. Or you could be changing that story and reframing it, saying, I get to be safe at home. You could be telling yourself you'll get sick. Or you could reframe that and say, but I'm going to self-isolate. I'm going to wash my hands, wear my mask, do everything possible to decrease my chance. You could tell yourself you're going to run out of items during isolation. But we're in this now. This is third time round for lockdown. We know that we're going to be okay. We know that the delivery drivers are being kept very busy by all of our orders and meeting our needs, or that we've got neighbours that will help us if we are struggling and we can't get out. You could panic about the fact that things are shutting. Or you can remind yourself that no, the things that are essential are open. You could then finally go, there's too much uncertainty, and absolutely, there is a lot of uncertainty. But we have to focus on the things we can control. We have to put to one side the things that we can't control, which I know is easier said than done. But focus on what we can control. The things that you choose to eat, whether you do that commute, whether you go to bed on time, whether you reach out to a friend, whether you do some breath work, which I'll get to in a moment. But focus on the things you can control. That mindset is just the story you tell yourself. So tell yourself a positive story. And I mentioned breath work there. So as tip number 8, we're going to talk about breathing, which might seem a little bit odd because we all breathe. But I mentioned in tip number 1 about the fact that when we're staring at screens, we don't breathe properly. And actually, about 90% of the population doesn't breathe properly. There's so much research around this now about the importance of focusing on our breath, focusing on breathing in and out of the nose rather than the mouth. Anyone on here in sales or customer service roles, there's a high probability that you are a mouth breather, because when you talk all day, you are breathing in and out of your mouth. Now, if you're not sure if you're a mouth breather, ask yourself this question. Do you wake up in the morning with a dry mouth? If you do, that is a strong sign that you are a mouth breather. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about it, but if you have any questions specifically around this, do make sure that you put them forward and I'll answer them in the Q&A. But fundamentally, taking a few deep breaths switches the prefrontal cortex back on. It breaks that panic cycle. Anyone who's ever had a panic attack, and I know I have, they are horrible. What do they tell you to do is to focus on your breathing. Any ladies on here who've had children, what do you do during labour? Focus on the breathing. There are so many amazing things that breathing properly does. It's your superpower. There's literally not a function of your body that isn't improved by breathing properly. But we're talking about anxiety specifically. There's a 63% reduction in anxiety disorder by a short daily breathing practice. So I am not talking about a 5-hour silent meditation. I'm talking about a short minute or 2 minutes. Whilst you're waiting for the shower to heat up in the morning, or whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil, or whilst you're waiting for your colleague to join the next video meeting that you've got. Just needs to be a short period of time. So I'm going to do a little technique with you. I'm going to introduce you to it so those of you who have never tried this before can experience it for yourself. We're going to do a technique called shamatha. And what I love about this is it's called, what it means is to remain calm. And it's as simple as 4-4. So we are going to breathe in for a count of 4. We're going to breathe out for a count of 4. It's as simple as that. And by doing this, you are going to fundamentally change the chemistry in your body. This is not woo-woo, this is all science. Your body is full of hormones, and hormones are chemicals, so we are a mass chemistry experiment. And by focusing on your breathing, you bring those chemicals back to balance. So, what I want you to do is I want you to sit up straight. If you're sat on a chair, I want you to put your feet flat on the floor. If you're on the sofa or on the floor, then just sit whatever is comfortable with your legs crossed. I want you to put your palms face up on your lap. The reason your palms need to be face up is you've got a lot of nerve endings on your palms. So if you have your hands touching your lap or your knees, there's a lot of action going on here. By putting them face up, you are giving yourself space. You are also opening up your chest. When your palms are face down, your chest is closed. If you look at my shoulders, palms open, chest open. I want you to breathe deep into that belly. We are breathing low and slow. I want that belly expanding. Imagine you are inflating a rubber ring around your waist. As you breathe in, it inflates. As you breathe out, it deflates. If you actually want to put your hands on the side of your body or on your belly to feel that, then feel free. But most importantly, I want you breathing through your nose. Your mouth is not even part of your respiratory system. Your nose does so many magic things with the air that we breathe, from changing its temperature to body temperature, to clearing out bacteria, to creating nitric oxide, which is just an absolute wonder gas. So where possible, please breathe in and out of your nose. If you can't breathe in and out of your nose because you have sinus problems, please contact me because I have some solutions for that. If you can't breathe in and out of your nose because maybe in a sport you've had a broken nose, then breathe through your mouth. But if possible, breathe through your nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to count you through 5 rounds. It's going to take us a minute, just so that you can feel for yourself what happens when you focus on your breathing. So close your eyes. I can't see you. You can all see me, but I've got my eyes shut too. So close your eyes and just relax your shoulders a little bit. Let that stress of the day go. Rest your hands comfortably in your lap. Let any tension in your face go. I've been told before to soften my eyes, which when I was first told it, I thought that seemed like an impossible thing. But actually, when you focus, you can soften your eyes. So remember, we're going to breathe in for a count of 4. We're going to breathe out for a count of 4. And I'm just going to talk you through 5 rounds of it. And then you can see how you feel. So remember, in and out of the nose. Here we go. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, if you are enjoying that so much you want to keep going, go for it. But what I just wanted to show you there is I hope that you are feeling just a little sense of calm. You might have felt your shoulders start to relax as you were breathing out. You might have even felt some tingles in your fingers. You might have felt some tingles in your body because you are oxygenating your body. And oxygen is key to life. Breath is our superpower. But it's called a practice. And with anything, you're not necessarily going to get it on the first attempt. The first time I tried meditation, I fell asleep. That was very nice. The second time I did it, something so powerful happened to me physically that I was absolutely convinced of the importance of focusing on our breathing. And it's about finding what's right for you. So you need to find the right voice of the person. If you don't like the voice of the person that you're listening to, that's going to be difficult. Maybe you like the sound of the waves. Maybe you like simple counting. Maybe you like music. Maybe you like a visualization. Everybody's different, but it's about practice and knowing that this is freely available to you at any point throughout the day when you just start to feel a little bit overwhelmed. So try it. I'd love to know how you get on. Here's a few little apps for you and suggestions as to where you can start with this. The 2 main ones is Calm and Headspace. So they're the 2 sort of, most famous ones. They've got an annual fee, but you can try both of them for free first to see if you like the voices. You've then got Insight Timer. That's a free app. It's got thousands of meditations on it, but you have to try and go through a few of them till you find what works for you. So try each of those until you find your place. There's also loads on YouTube and Spotify, and it can be as simple, even if you don't use any apps, is just remember when you were a kid and you'd be on a swing and you could just picture yourself on the swing. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. So it doesn't have to be any complicated sort of techniques. It can be as simple as that feeling of being on a swing. Or for any of you on here who've got kids, we do a 5-finger breathing technique. You could get your kids doing this. Put their hand up, take their finger, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, and repeat. And for those of you who are still a little bit unsure, go to Instagram, go to Love to Learn To. There's an advanced breathwork instructor on there who does free breathwork sessions 4 times a week. I've mentioned 2 evening sessions on my slides, but he also does 2 morning sessions as well. And I promise you, if you join that session, you will be absolutely convinced. So when it comes to breathing, whether you want to reduce your stress and anxiety, whether you want to sort out your sleep patterns, whether you want to reduce your snoring, it can do that as well. Whether you want to increase your sports performance, it does all of those things. So focus on the breathing. And my final tip is talking. It is really important to talk. Whether that is to friends, family, whether that's to your colleagues, whether that's to a professional, holding things in and holding in those feelings that we have, they just build up. And our body remembers all of those feelings. So it is good to talk. By getting it out, what you're actually doing is that you're making sense of it in your head so that you can verbalize it. So I'm going to introduce you to a group. This is called Run, Talk, Run. This is the group I go to. This was before lockdown happened, so we're not allowed to be doing this at the moment. And as you can see, that certainly isn't a winter picture. But Run, Talk, Run is a community across the whole, well, it's actually global now, but there's over 100 of them across the UK. If you go to the website, there's a list of locations. They are everywhere. This is the Brighton and Hove group that I go to, and I joined it because I was new to Brighton, didn't have any friends here, and really just needed people to talk to. So I joined the group, we run together. It's not very fast, if I'm honest, I'm not a great runner, but we run and we chat and we make friends. So for anyone who's sat there thinking, like I was, I'd like to make a few new friends, check out Run, Talk, Run. And as soon as lockdown is over and we are allowed to meet again, then go and run with a group. You'll meet some amazing people. And I promise you, you won't regret it. Thank you very, very much for your time today. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I really hope you've taken away some practical tips that you can put into place today with yourself, with your team, with your family, with your friends, so that you can help yourself find calm during uncertain times. I'm really looking forward now to answering your Q&A. So here we go. Let's answer.